Giving DSPS students more time on a test in Blackboard Learn 9.1. Instructors have a few options when setting up tests for their DSPS students on Blackboard. The first option is to not enforce the time limit on the test. So this is done on the test options page of a test. Turning auto submit to off allows students to continue in the test after the time expires. This of course means that all students, including the DSPS students, can take more time on the test. So in some cases this is not the ideal option. Another option that instructors have is to create a new test for just the DSPS students. First, the instructor would need to copy the original into a DSPS test. Then they increase the time allowed for that DSPS test. And then access is granted to just the DSPS students by either password protecting the DSPS test or adaptively releasing it to just the DSPS students. So let's look at this option 2 in more detail inside a course. Okay, I'm inside a demo course, and let's say I wanted to make a DSPS version of this Module 1 quiz for just my DSPS students. So I need to go to the Control Panel in Course Tools and select Tests, Surveys, and Pools. I'll go into Tests, where I'll find all the tests, and I see that Module 1 quiz listed here. In my chevron button next to Module 1 quiz, I have the option to copy. So I'm going to select that option. It makes a copy with a copy of the test with a parentheses 1 after it. So I'm going to go into that chevron button again and edit. And rather than editing the questions in my test, I'm going to go up to the title of my test, select edit there, and change that paren 1 so that it reads -DSPS and submit. Okay, now I've made a copy of my DSPS, of my Module 1 quiz, and I should see it when I click back to Tests. I'll see that DSPS version has been created. It hasn't yet been deployed, as my original quiz has, so my next step is to deploy the quiz, and that's going to allow me to change my test options, including increasing the duration of the test. So now I go to where I want to deploy my test. In my case, I have a quizzes folder, and I want to deploy that DSPS quiz in this same folder. So I'm going to select the Create Assessment button and select Test. Now that DSPS quiz should be visible in the list, and I'm going to click Submit. Now on this page of test options, it's important to set the test options as you want for your DSPS students. So you'll need to go in, make the link available, force completion if you had your original set that way, set the timer, and here's where you can increase the time allowed for your DSPS students. You can also decide whether to turn auto submit on or off for your DSPS students. If the my original test was set for auto submit on, so I'm going to keep my DSPS test set that way as well. Now we've increased the time limit for those students, and what I need to do now is provide access to just the DSPS students for this test. Now I can do that by password protecting my test. So I can put a password here on this DSPS version and only share that password with my DSPS students. Or I can use adaptive release. Adaptive release, I'm going to submit my test options here. Adaptive release is found in the drop-down menu, the chevron button for the quiz. And if I select adaptive release, I don't need to worry about sections 1 or 3 or 4. I'm worried about the second section here labeled membership. Here's where I'm going to put the DSPS students' CSID numbers, their usernames. And I would separate multiple usernames with commas. Okay, so then I hit submit. And now I have a visual cue that adaptive release has been enabled for that DSPS test. So not every student is seeing it, only the members, the criteria that I just inputted. And I can go back into my chevron button, select adaptive release, and check that those students have access to the test. It would also be a smart idea to put your demo account in here so that you as the instructor can log into the system with your demo account and make sure that your demo account has access to the DSPS test as well. Okay, so once you've added those students to the adaptive release and submitted it, the link to that DSPS test with the longer duration is only available to your DSPS students. This tutorial showed you how to give your DSPS students more time on a test in Blackboard Learn 9.1.